Hey everybody, this is Brad Bruce, and I am here with
Jace Marsiglia.
And you're listening to the 5195 podcast.
Yep. Now that you've made me aware of Back at It, I just don't want to... I don't want to give that to you.
You don't want to get back at it?
It's not that I don't want to get back at it, but I'm not your dancing monkey.
Marty will play the game.
Oh, he totally will.
The new co-host coming soon.
Coming soon to 5195 podcast 2.0.
2.0.
How's it going?
Back at it.
You're back at it? I'm just at it.
This is like a sketch.
Yeah, good segue.
See what I did there?
We got a weird one today.
Very weird.
Because I think it started as a singular topic, but I feel like we could go into a few directions here with this. But I think the initial idea was Saturday Night Live based movies. But then we did a little bit of research, and even though it seems like SNL put out tons of flicks from the 70s on up, holy shit, they really didn't.
No, they didn't.
Not a lot at all. And it just, when you grew up in the 80s and 90s, it felt like all the movies were SNL.
Yeah, they really did. And you know why? Because of the alumni.
Yes.
They were in everything.
They were in all kinds of stuff.
But they weren't SNL movies.
No. So, and we discussed this, we couldn't consider something like Tommy Boy technically an SNL movie. It's got Spade, it's got Farley, it's got Dan Aykroyd. Not an SNL movie because it was not based on a pre-existing sketch. Is that what the agreement?
That's what we were talking. Yeah.
And in that sense, there are very few SNL movies.
Yeah, there really are.
I mean, because growing up, I was just like, Tommy Boy's an SNL movie. Black Sheep's an SNL movie.
It seems like it would be.
Vacation is an SNL movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just one of those.
Caddyshack
for sure. Yeah, it's just, Ghostbusters is an SNL movie. But when you really strip it down, none of these movies are based on Saturday Night Live in any way, shape, or form. It's just the collaboration of familiar cast members. I mean, we could even go so far as to call, if we were going on the original route, something like Vacation or Ghostbusters is SNL meets SCTV.
Yeah, definitely.
Because of the inclusion of like John Candy and Rick Moranis. But yeah, very, very few SNL movies, which we'll get to, but that was the initial idea. And then we're like, that'll take up all of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I wondered, and I jotted down a few ideas here. I wondered if we could just talk about some of the SNL from our respective eras, favorite cast members, even favorite sketches, and then we can go into the movies from there.
Yeah. This will take all of 5 minutes for me, if I really stretch it out.
Were you an SNL fan?
To a degree.
Same.
I watched it because my older brothers watched it.
Okay.
Now, I watched it during the Murray, Chase, Aykroyd era.
I keep forgetting you're ancient. Yeah.
That's right.
So you were there when it spawned back in.
When it was good.
Yeah. When it was actually pushing buttons.
When it was real.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember many of the sketches.
No, I mean, from that era, there's a few standouts. I think of the Japanese restaurant with Belushi as the samurai.
Yeah.
Classic, super funny. The cheeseburger restaurant, cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm. What was that? Say that again?
Cheeseburger.
Okay, just checking.
Coneheads was that era.
The one that I actually remember that stuck out was the Land Shark.
Land Shark. I was just going to mention Land Shark. My Candygram.
Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
That was going to be the other one I was going to mention.
Yeah, those are the ones that I actually remember.
I really like Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. That was fucking hilarious. And that would be...
and so did Mr. Rogers.
Did he really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
pretty crazy.
That's really funny. That proved he had a sense of humor.
Uh-huh.
A lot of that stuff I got to see because my parents taped it. They used to tape SNL all the time. So we had tapes stacked all over the place of SNL episode this, SNL episode that, or a best of. I got to see a lot of Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see a lot of Coneheads.
Mainly in the mirror.
Yep.
We're putting on our best SNL is what we're doing. Actually, I'm more SCTV.
I do have a Candygram. Yeah, we could even do a whole other episode on SCTV.
I was more of a fan of SCTV than I was Saturday Night Live.
See, that one I don't know much about at all. But my parents told me a lot about SCTV, and I think we have like a season 1 or something.
Okay.
Like on DVD or something. Oh, I forgot another one from your era. Mr. Bill. which was classic. Just a stupid clay guy who always gets hurt, and it's beautiful. I didn't grow up during that era, obviously. Mine, I like to think that I skipped the worst era, which arguably was like your Julia Dreyfus, Robert Downey Jr., Randy Quaid. It's just a very bizarre era that I think nobody is like particularly proud of from the sounds of it.
I think we're back in the worst era too.
Maybe, but that's the thing. I don't even watch.
I've tried to watch, and I'm just like, this is god awful.
I can't. I don't watch SNL much at all.
Not at all.
And to be honest, I kind of bailed during the era where people like Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry and Chris Kattan came in, who all went on to huge things. Molly Shannon, these are all huge, huge people now, and all because of SNL for the most part. I watched some of it, thought it was mildly amusing, but my cast was your Mike Myers, Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, David Spade, Jan Hooks. I absolutely adored Jan Hooks, John Lovitz. That was my era. It was sort of that bridge between what everyone considers the awful years and the pick-me-up years. So I watched all those, and I had a lot of favorite sketches from that era as well. But yeah, the few years prior to that was like a dead zone. I used to watch some of those reruns like on Comedy Central and was just like, it just wasn't funny. But no, the 90s, late 80s, early 90s,
they were good. I did check some of those out. That was a good cast for sure.
Those were funny. And a lot of probably I would say the lion's share of SNL movies came from that era.
Definitely.
Because prior to that, we looked up was Blues Brothers.
Yeah, 1980.
And that was it. I don't think I'm pretty sure when we looked, the next one didn't come out until Wayne's World.
Yeah, 92.
Yeah. And that was, that's
a big gap.
That's a huge gap for a show that was potentially a movie could have been made from any sketch. It was crazy. It's even crazy to look back now and think, oh, Blues Brothers? Yeah. That's the one out the gate? All these other sketches, and it's like the musical act that Belushi and Aykroyd put on. Okay. And it worked. It was a good movie. Do you have any particular sketches that just always made you laugh?
Yeah, anything with Norm Macdonald.
Norm was great.
Seriously, anything with Norm Macdonald,
he was hilarious.
That was the reason why I did tune in.
He really kind of got chained to the news desk, because I don't recall him...
For a while, until he pushed the envelope.
Yeah, and I believe that had to do with OJ, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
It did. Anytime Norm would play Burt Reynolds...
Oh yeah,
it was gold,
and that was typically during Celebrity Jeopardy.
Yeah,
which was also hilarious. One of mine was of course Wayne's World, just because it spoke to me as a rocker. It was just these guys were fucking hilarious, and when the movie was announced, I was all for it. Went and seen it, all that stuff. But I was also a big fan of Matt Foley, motivational speaker. That's just, it's so classic. And, him taking out tables and shit and the cast busting up. Yeah. Or trying not to. And it was, God, that was fucking magic. That was just so funny, dude. Do you remember from roughly that era, Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Those killed me, dude. Because it was like, I'd wait for it to come on, and it was always something so fucking random. And the one that stands out was, when I look back on my childhood with my siblings, I always remember Uncle Caveman. Do you remember Uncle Caveman?
I do.
So he goes, we would visit Uncle Caveman in the cave near where we lived. And every once in a while, he'd eat one of us. And then at the end, he goes, later, we found out Uncle Caveman was a bear.
So good.
It's just so
It's so good.
Stupid.
I love that kind of shit.
That
I do
was
love
funny.
that shit.
I loved that. There's no explanation. This kind of goes back to our episode about cult favorites and shit.
Yeah.
I can't defend the sketch, but Toonsis the driving cat.
I remember that.
Why the fuck did that make me laugh every time? I think it was the absurdity of just going, honey, our cat can drive, and just going with it. And then the cat always plummeted them to their deaths,
Yeah. My brother liked that shit.
The Toonsis one?
Yeah.
It did wear out its welcome, but it was one of those deals where it was just like, I fucking laughed. It was the dumbest thing. And we have a theory. I don't know if this is true. People can write in. You can agree, disagree. Me and my family believe that after 12:30, that's where they shove all the sketches that they know are not going to get laughs. Because from 12:30 to 1, it was usually a void of laughter. It was just these sketches where you're like, yikes.
Yeah.
You know, you get a few...
That's actually a good... I never really thought about that.
Because usually the funniest ones are within that first half hour. Next half hour is usually Weekend Update and a couple other things. And then the last half hour or so was like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah.
It was kind of like, clearly I need to go to bed.
Yeah, that's
between
crazy.
12 and 1. But I'd watched all the way through because you remember SNL was my lead into Sightings on Saturday night. So I watched the whole damn thing and then watched Sightings for an hour.
Right.
But yeah, I always thought, we still think that from 12:30
That's pretty funny.
12:30 to 1, it's just, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know, it was like, even the audience, you'd get a few chuckles here and there, but it wasn't like earlier when everyone was a little more awake and all the sketches were kind of front loaded that clearly Lauren and the producers thought were the funniest.
Yeah.
You know, and usually the first half hour always had the fake commercials or something like Colon Blow. Do you remember Colon Blow?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of fiber. There was that. There was, I shared this one with you just a few days ago because I thought of it. The Hetty's toothpaste, the British toothpaste that tastes great on a cracker. I love that fucking shit, man. But yeah, that was mostly my era. There was one sketch that really always fucking killed me, and it never got much play. And I thought it was one of the funniest ones of the 90s, just period. It was a sketch with Heather Locklear. She was the host, and she's at a bar. She's kind of got this friendly, flirty competition. There's like no talking in this sketch. It's all music. But it's her across the bar from Kevin Nealon.
Okay.
Kevin Nealon looks like a businessman. He just got off work, and she's just this smoking hot chick. And, you know, she'll take a sip of her drink, and he'll take a sip of his. She might undo a button. He undoes a button. And it starts really small. Eventually, she grabs, I think Farley's next to her, and she just completely makes out with him and then shoves him away. And he doesn't have a woman next to him, so he grabs Norm Macdonald and makes out with him. And Norm's like, hey, you know. So they keep going back and forth trying to one-up each other. And then finally, she picks up this bottle that's got the skull and crossbones on it. And then just takes a huge chug out of it. And he's just like, holy shit. So then he picks up his poison and drinks it. And then when it cuts back to her, she peels the label off and it says just water. And then he pulls his label off and it says really bad poison or something like that. He dies. She walks over, grabs his wallet and walks away. And it was just, to me, it was such a simple, hilarious sketch that really relied more on Kevin Nealon's expressions. Because Locklear was hot and all she had to do was be hot. Great comedic timing. She was hilarious. I think she even did one where I think one of the things that she had him do was you see her take a swig of her drink and then she leans over and just like gleeks it through her teeth. So then he's got to do that and winds up choking on it. But it was such a funny sketch with so minimal. I think Norm Macdonald yelling at him going, hey.
Yeah.
That might be the only dialogue in the sketch.
Yeah.
Otherwise it was just seeing them in this silent game of, but you can't do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was fucking hilarious. And that's one that always stood out. And, I can't remember if they left it in because so many episodes were syndicated on Comedy Central or whatever, and it was usually trimmed down to an hour, so something always had to go.
Don't get cut.
Whether it was musical guests or something, you know.
Yeah.
Which usually musical guests is usually when I got up and got something to eat, or, you know, because I just wasn't into it. But I remember that sketch just kind of disappearing, and I'm not even sure if it's on YouTube. I never thought to look, but
oh shit!
But I saw that like 30 years ago.
That's crazy.
And it stands out. It was so fucking funny. I was dying. But she was another one, Heather Locklear. She was one that she'd host. And it was just funny because I remember thinking, at the time, there was no one hotter. She was the biggest thing. And the fact that she could throw down and be stupid with the boys, it was like, that's great. You fit right in with the Julia Sweeneys and the Sarah Silverman. And again, Jan Hooks, who I fucking love Jan Hooks.
What is it about her?
She... You know, it was something to do with, it wasn't deadpan. I wouldn't call it deadpan. but she had a way of saying the dumbest lines with kind of a coy grin or something that made it look like she's serious, even though what she just said was absurd. And it was just, she would, I think every now and again she would show up on maybe Coffee Talk with Mike Myers. She's one of the judges in the famous Chippendales sketch with Farley and Patrick Swayze. But I mean, I even liked her and other shit. Like, she usually played Martin Short's wife and stuff.
Okay.
And I want to say clear up until her death, she was playing Jiminy Glick's wife.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I just remember in that movie, someone comes to Jiminy's hotel room. Did you ever see the movie?
I did.
It's like you've got an invite to go to such and such screening, and he goes, "That's magnificent." And then he turns into the hotel room. "Honey, stop pleasuring yourself and listen." But it was so funny. And I even love her, and she's only in it for like a minute, but Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
There's no basement in the Alamo. To me, she's like the comedic version of a Carolyn Williams.
Oh, yeah.
They could almost pass for sisters. You know, it was just, she had that look about her that she's doing this. Like I said, it's not quite deadpan, but it's almost a Leslie Nielsen-esque way of saying the stupidest things, but having a look on her face like, I mean it.
The conviction.
Yeah. And it was just, to me, that was hilarious. Yeah. I love that type of humor.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jan Hooks was she was a big one for me. And
no, it's funny. You bringing all this stuff up is actually just like making me remember all this shit.
Sure, because it was just, I feel like that small era before the 2000s, I think SNL got a real good shot in the arm just because they found a way to cobble the best cast together since the 70s. Because those guys had all graduated and moved on to movies and all this. These new cats that, I'll admit, I think the generation above me was like, these people are fucking stupid. Can't stand, Farley, he just screams and falls down and all that. But I ate it up. I thought it was hilarious, and it was very timely. And of course, Wayne and Garth were basically the answer to grunge, which was just burgeoning. But yeah,
I mean, I do remember the Wayne's World sketches.
The Wayne's World sketches were great. It was those were absolutely hilarious, and to a lesser degree, Mike Myers' Sprockets, which was just kind of weird.
Yeah.
He did do a sketch. I don't know how often it aired or how often they repeated it, but he had was it the Scottish Store?
Oh my God.
And of course he's doing what we now know as Shrek.
Yeah.
Because his Scottish voice, it's Fat Bastard, it's Shrek. It's
So I Married an Axe Murderer.
So I Married an Axe Murderer, his dad. Yeah. But it was the store. I don't remember much about it other than when people come in, he goes, "Welcome to whatever the store's name called. If it's not Scottish, it's crap."
Yeah. Yep. I remember that. Holy shit. I literally forgot about that one.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't think that's one that got enough of a laugh that they were like, let's bring that back. What they did do with Mike, which did make me laugh, was Simon in the bathtub.
I don't remember that.
Where he'd play Simon, the British boy in the bathtub. And he's like, "I like to do drawings." And he would always draw these like sketch figures, like stick figures and shit. And like one of them showed like a stick figure crying and being dragged away. And he goes, "This is my daddy in the casino." And he kept yelling, "Credit, give me more credit." And I said, "Well, you're the best daddy I've ever had in my life." And he goes, and then they whisked him away to a darkened room.
I don't remember that.
It was so fucking funny.
I don't remember that at all.
He did one with like Danny DeVito next to him.
Oh, nice.
Of course, naked in the bathtub, but he's wearing like a ball cap backwards, and he's supposed to be Vinny from like New York.
Yeah.
So you got this British kid he says something like, "I tried to learn from my nanny how to make oregano." And he goes, "What do you mean oregano, kid?" And he goes, "Folding things into animals." And he goes, "That's origami, you limey freak."
I don't remember this at all.
They were funny, dude. He did 2 or 3. He did one with Macaulay Culkin. I think he did one with, is her name Sarah Gilbert from Roseanne?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Darlene.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, she had an eye patch. I have no idea why.
What the hell?
But there were a handful of Simon sketches, and he always was in the bathtub. And when he'd lean over to get a picture, he'd be like, Are you looking at my bum?
Oh my god!
Stop looking at my bum. You know, it's dumber than shit. But
Yeah.
I laughed at all of them. Usually because of his misunderstanding. You know, my daddy and my nanny went for a trip last week, and when my mom found out, she was ever so angry.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a funny one that Mike
It's like
did.
some early Austin Powers.
Extremely. Oh god. I mean, almost. I swear, Mike has like 3 voices, and he just recycles them with new characters.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
nothing against him. It's always made me laugh. But
Everything against him.
well, you know, even Dr. Evil.
Oh, it's Lauren.
It's Lauren.
Yeah, and if you listen to it, it's like, oh my god.
100. Once you realize it, you're like, oh Jesus.
Yeah.
It's Lauren on all top to bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I thought those were great years, man.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed those. I loved the Chris Farley show.
Mm-hmm.
Where he would basically play an even more insecure version of himself.
Yeah.
Interviewing Paul McCartney.
You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
I still think the funniest one is he goes, do you remember when you were with the Beatles? To Paul McCartney of all people. Do you remember when you were with the Beatles? That was awesome. He'd forget something and just beat the shit out of himself.
Such a fucking good character.
Dude, seriously, we could do an entire show on Farley.
I am a huge Farley fan.
I
Huge
loved
Farley
the
fan.
guy.
Yeah.
Loved the guy.
Yeah.
And I miss him terribly.
Yep.
We've talked before about Farley and how by this point, 2024, he'd have been well into his dramatic phase.
Oh yeah, totally. He could have been doing some dark stuff.
Oh yeah, he would have already graduated past.
Because you could tell there was some range with that guy. You know, it wasn't just comedy.
No, and sadly, when it came to Farley, it was always, he looked at it as fatty fall down, ratings go up. Mm-hmm. That was a saying he used to say. And
Yeah.
there's something so sad to that.
That's what I'm banking on. But yeah, no.
That's me too. If only I have that fat guy lucky. You know,
Well, I just meant for either one of us.
if we fall down, the ratings go up. Well, you guys did start filming. I'm sure getting out of this corner is going to be a bitch. I'm going to suck in and kind of totter. But no, I think he would have been. There's a shot in Black Sheep where he's fired from his job because it looks like he lit the place on fire or something. And I remember him he puts on these bunny ears from God knows what. I think the picture showed him as the Easter bunny hiding eggs or something. But he's packed up his shit to leave because he's been fired. And just before he steps outside, as he takes one last look around the office, his eyes are rimmed with tears. And it was the first time I remember kind of looking at him and going, I didn't know if he got a little spritz or what, but I remember thinking he's tearing up. That's acting. That's not comedy. He's sad, and he emoted it in a way that I sure couldn't. I don't know how to will up, but I bought it. I bought the sadness. I bought the sadness when Tommy's dad died.
Yeah.
You know, that little montage, that's a heartbreaking scene in such a funny fucking movie. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I do believe Farley, and even Spade for that matter, could do the drama thing like Sandler's gone on to do. Sandler's become a very successful dramatic actor, you know.
The Godfather of Brentwood.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
The Godfather of
Brentwood. Where he lives. Yeah. It's just funny because you see him walking around, like leaving delis or leaving restaurants, and like when he had his surgery he had like a cane, but he's also dressed like some sort of homeless basketball player.
Oh yeah.
And he's just eating and just walking, and it's like I remember someone playing like the Godfather theme, and he's just slowly walking. It was the fucking Godfather of Brentwood. It was funny. Hilarious.
That is funny.
Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not a Sandler fan.
Neither am I.
And there's a couple of
5195podcast@gmail.com because I catch shit for not being a Sandler fan.
I'm not a Sandler fan. Here's the thing. I really do like, was it 8 Crazy Nights?
Oh, the animated Christmas one?
I really do enjoy that.
Nope.
I really do. I do enjoy that one.
That one's not on my list.
I think I appreciate The Longest Yard because it was a really well-made remake.
Of the Burt Reynolds film.
Yeah. And Burt's in it.
Yeah,
so he got the
isn't
blessing. So I was like, that's kind of cool. And, you know, it's not so much Sandler's performance, but it's just the ensemble, all the stuff that's going on around Sandler in Longest Yard.
That one's
it's good. It's a solid
bad.
movie. No, it's not.
I remember that one being pretty good.
Yeah.
As far as laughs per minute, Happy Gilmore to me is probably his peak in my book. I laughed like absolute hell at Happy Gilmore, and I'm one of the few people that really, really liked The Wedding Singer.
I like The Wedding Singer.
Wedding Singer,
what? Yeah, it's weird. I kind of forget about that one.
A lot of people do, and I'm like, that movie's really sweet. It's really funny. It, to me, brought Drew Barrymore back to the...
Wow, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Like, that's fucking solid.
Yeah, like prior to that, Drew Barrymore was still the bad girl of Hollywood. Yeah. She's this rebellious teen doing all this shit. I watched The Wedding Singer, and I never thought I would have a renewed crush on Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
She is fucking adorable in this movie. And to be completely honest, it was 2 years after Scream, maybe one. And to me, that's more of a comeback movie than Scream was.
Totally. Oh my God, for sure.
Like Wedding Singer, she glows in that film.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And I'll go a step further and say 50 First Dates. Kind of heartbreaking, pretty funny. Not as funny as Wedding Singer, but I liked the idea that every day was like, I have to start this romance over because she won't remember it tomorrow. And how protective her family was of her. It just, for a Sandler movie, they all try to have like a heart, but most of the times it comes across kind of forced and clunky. And
you know what? I do like the Halloween movie he just did. That was good.
Was it Hubie?
Yeah.
Hubie's Halloween?
Yeah, that was actually good.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. I think he plays like a special needs guy or something.
Probably with a weird speech impediment because
that's
he leans into that.
Yeah. It's like Myers with the voices.
Mm-hmm. And that's...
Go with what you know.
I guess, because it's like, to me, that was one of the things I don't like about Sandler. I don't have to hear the baby voice. Yeah. It's like... like Waterboy and shit. I'm just kind of like, I don't get it.
I'm not a fan of Waterboy.
Me neither.
No, I'm not a fan.
I absolutely, to me.
Same. What you're about to say? Same.
Yeah?
Yeah. Little Nicky.
Yep. Yeah. I jumped the fuck off the Sandler wagon.
I couldn't stand it.
I tucked and rolled on that one. I
couldn't stand it.
I think I've officially outgrown Sandler.
Yeah.
And then if anything I saw after that was mostly because somebody had me at their mercy. Like I was at someone's house and they're like, oh, we're watching fucking, Mr. Deeds or something. And I'm like, fuck, now I'm watching Mr. Deeds, which it had a laugh or two.
It did have moments. Mr. Deeds did have moments.
Yeah. I personally, every time Johnny McEnroe jumps like 30 feet in the air over a car, I lose my shit. That's funny. Winona Ryder telling a little kid that your daddy is a liar about building this house with his bare hands. That shit was funny. But, it's like moments. Whereas Wedding Singer, Happy Gilmore, maybe half of Billy Madison are like a laugh a minute kind of things.
Yeah. And see, that's what's funny. I think that's why we think there are so many SNL movies.
Right.
Because of the alum and what they've done in all these movies.
Particularly my era.
Your era, for sure.
Because, yes, Chase, Murray, Aykroyd, they all went on to massive things. But I just feel like the amount of Lorne Michaels output in theaters, whether an SNL movie or not, because Michaels had a big hand in Tommy Boy and Black Sheep and all that. Basically, his name's on it as a blessing. You're borrowing my toys for you to make your movie. Yeah, to me, the 90s era's cast, they were everywhere. I mean, you had Night at the Roxbury, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Superstar with Molly Shannon. We had Stuart Smalley, Saves His Parents or whatever. Coneheads, It's Pat. All these movies, but like you said, you got Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, Beverly Hills Ninja with Farley and Chris Rock.
Yeah.
You got, was it CB4 with Chris Rock?
Yeah.
Trading Places. That's Murphy and Aykroyd, and that's not an SNL movie, but everyone associated them. And I believe Eddie Murphy was supposed to be Winston Zedmore in the Ghostbusters.
Because, it wasn't Belushi was supposed to be Venkman.
Yes. And the thing is, to me, that worked out perfectly, as is,
Yeah.
I
love Belushi, but there's no one like Bill Murray.
No. And, it's practically written for Bill Murray. I almost can't picture it with Belushi if you kept the same dialogue. Did you know that at one point when my dad, when we were kids, we used to go to a video store called Video House.
Okay.
And they used to have these little booklets at the counter of upcoming releases.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, a lot of places had those.
Yeah.
I was collecting them for a hot minute.
Yeah.
But the first couple of pages would have coming soon to theaters or what's in the works. And I'll never forget, this is early to mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And a blurb saying that they're working on a third Ghostbusters with Chris Farley in the cast.
Really?
As a Ghostbuster.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. And I even had one that said Chris Farley was going to be in Shrek.
They shot 90% of that.
They did. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I heard the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yeah.
And in one of those old books, and this is way late now, they had announced Hotel Transylvania.
Okay.
Which the kids now know that's a trilogy of,
yeah,
maybe more than a trilogy now, of Adam Sandler animated films, which are cute. Those are funny.
Mm-hmm.
I watch them almost like in a General Mills kind of way. It's almost,
I think they're great.
To me, they're like...
I think they're great movies.
They just feel like Count Chocula movies, and I kind of don't... I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
I think it's funny.
I mean, we saw the first one here because we were like, okay, whatever. We watched it, and we were like, holy shit, this is really funny.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, we saw the rest of them like in the theater.
Well, you know me. I'm not being a huge Sandler fan. I didn't rush out for it.
Yeah.
But it was my daughter who really liked horror, in quotes, the horror I was showing her at a young age, which was like Ghostbusters and Hocus Pocus and shit like that. I rented it for her, and I was laughing like hell. I thought it was really funny. And then, we just, as Jake came along and everything, we wound up watching and buying the other ones too. But when I read that blurb in the 90s, it just proves how far back that thing's been gestating in Hollywood. Yeah. And that I think, if memory serves, it was even being described as a live action film, one. And two, I don't think it was meant to be funny.
Really?
I'm not positive, but whatever happened between the 90s and now, it became animated family fun. Whereas back then it was like a hotel for monsters, which probably still would have been comedic, but I don't think it was anything like what we got.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. I wish there was a way to hunt down that old script maybe, but
that's interesting. Yeah. Cause like, I love those kind of stories. Like not to like get too far off the topic, but I have a friend who wrote a pretty successful holiday film. And he told me, and like, I'd love to have him on the show one time, but it's like, he told me that he actually wrote it much darker for another actor.
Okay.
And the studio was like, hey, because I guess the actor that's in it came to the studio and was like, I want to do something like Christmassy or whatever, you know, and they knew they had this movie. And I guess they told him like, hey, rewrite this, make it funny, and write it for him. Okay. And again, I don't want to tell his story.
No, but I think I know the movie and the person you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'll tell you when we finish. But and I was like, wow, that's fucking crazy. It's like it would have been such a different movie than what it is right now. I was like, oh, it's pretty wild. So I do love those kind of stories from Hollywood. How you hear like, oh, this was supposed to be that, or like I know Tom Selleck was originally wanted for Indiana Jones, and there's even posters.
Oh yeah, Tom Selleck, and I believe from Animal House. And he's in Black Sheep. He's Farley's brother.
Oh, is it Matheson?
Matheson. I've seen his screen test as Indiana Jones. Yeah. As well. It was just...
Yeah, maybe that would be another cool show.
That'd be cool, too. Just like the cats that could have been. Or,
or who turned down what.
Yeah. Because a lot of those cats are way out of their bags. It's not, it's nothing...
Right.
People couldn't find out easily.
Exactly, yeah.
But...
Again, it's like I was a fan of SNL for a bit. I never made it like a point to watch it, but if it was on, I would definitely watch it. I loved getting into the movies. I loved the Blues Brothers. Yeah. Like, because I did love the Blues Brothers performing on stage. Because it was just insane to see, like, this fucking big dude, like, doing flips and fucking going crazy. And then I come to find out it was cocaine. But nevertheless, it was still fucking crazy to see this dude do all this shit, When I saw the movie, because I didn't see it in the theater.
No?
It was on VHS, and I thought it was so badass. Because again, I do like musicals.
Yeah,
and it's a big musical.
I don't remember much about it, and the thing is, I probably did kind of cast it off because it was a musical. Mm-hmm. But is it a musical, or is it one of those where they'll
break into song?
Okay, they do break into song.
They break into song, dance, everything,
the whole schmear.
Yeah, and it's cool because there's just so many fucking cool people in it. Like Aretha Franklin does the fucking amazing song. Mm-hmm. Ray Charles. Yeah, Cab Calloway, James Brown.
So it was a blues movie.
Oh, I mean, 1,000%.
If you're into blues,
they did it right. No, they did it right.
I remember, was Carrie Fisher in it too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope. She plays a nut.
Yeah, I remember them in the sewer at one point.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it though, but I probably wouldn't be a bad one for me to revisit.
No, because it is really fun. I do love the story. John Candy's in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really, really good people in it. And even knowing that it was a SNL movie, I was like, how are they going to stretch a sketch into a full movie?
There's the rub, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. You think.
And then, in my opinion, they did it 100%.
Well, yeah, they were able to wrap a plot around it. I could say the same about Wayne's World, where it's just a couple of dudes hanging out in their basement, rating chicks, talking about rock, making fun of movies. And I'm like, it's almost like Weekend Update from a basement.
Damn, and I just realized I think we're Wayne and Garth.
It's to a degree.
Fuck.
I mean, please party on when you feel the need.
Excellent.
But for them to wrap a plot around it that was so smart, with Rob Lowe being an exploitive TV exec who's like, we can cash in on these idiots because they're too stupid to understand. And the movie wind up being this whole, basically a riff on Hollywood. And it was like, that's not what I would have thought of for Wayne's World, and yet I can't picture it any other way. Wayne's World 2, not as ambitious as the first one.
I think it was just riding the wave.
Or even as smart, but I still laughed like hell.
I did too.
I love Wayne's World 2. I just don't think it's as sharp.
No, like I said, I have always referred to it as it's just riding the wave of the first one.
It is, but it's, in my opinion, it's not even like, to me, like the Austin Powers movies. I laughed like hell at the first one. I laughed a lot during the second one, but it was mostly retired jokes. The third one was like a greatest hits. Whereas to me, you see the diminishing return.
There's a pattern of what's coming.
Whereas Wayne's World 2, yeah, you've still got Schwing, you've still got the Dreamweaver fantasy and all this, but you had arguably the funniest martial arts spoof of any movie ever, in my opinion, with him fighting Cassandra's dad in the basement. The idea of putting on a Woodstock concert just because Jim Morrison visited you in a dream. It's very scattershot, and yet I laugh beginning to end. It's still a thumbs up from me. I still love Wayne's World 2, but the first one was just almost for an SNL sketch too intelligent, too wry. It's almost like Wayne's World's kind of biting the hand that's feeding it. You know what I mean? And doing it in a way that's both hilarious and smart. And to hold the two up next to each other, great double feature. But to me, the first one, there's some real thought into the satire of that one versus more of the Naked Gun / Simpsons. We're just going to spoof other things of the second one, which was still very funny.
Right.
And then between the two was, we talked about Coneheads and how I fucking love that movie. I think Coneheads is hilarious, and that one doesn't get talked about hardly at all. And most people I talk to, my kids included, they're just kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
That's the joke. They're Coneheads. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny. It's funny to me.
And if you think about it, that's actually a sketch taken from the 70s.
Yeah, that's an
80s,
older one.
You know what I mean? So
I mean,
it's kind of interesting.
Once Wayne's World was a hit,
they
started going through their file cabinets. They're like, what could we do? What could we do? And for Coneheads to be one of the first and earliest examples of, why don't we go back and bring these? What have they been up to since the 70s?
Which was cool.
It was.
Because I do enjoy the Coneheads.
I thought the sketches were funny.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't think about it. I just kind of appreciated that it was there.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult, I look back and go, they're making a Coneheads movie? I'd probably be like, there's not much there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still a pretty damn funny movie. And it actually, that one, in much the same way Wayne's World was a spoof on media and greed and all that, Coneheads was very much an immigration spoof. It's a lot smarter than just, they're just trying to fit in with wearing like Abe Lincoln hats and shit like that.
Yeah.
If it was just the sketch, it probably wouldn't have been very funny, but the movie is literally a gag on illegal aliens. Mm-hmm. And really fucking smart. It's a really smart, funny movie.
And that's the thing is like a lot of them aren't.
No,
a lot of them aren't. There's only a few of them that actually are smart.
Because I'm not a huge fan of It's Pat.
Mm-hmm. Nor am I.
Or Stuart Saves His Family.
Nor am I.
Not that they didn't have laughs. They just worked better as sketches.
They did.
Should have been left at that.
Yeah.
The Ladies' Man with Tim Meadows. I did laugh, but it was like he didn't need a movie. And it probably would have been funnier if it was more like Undercover Brother, which I don't remember much about either. I just remember that being funny. But if you were going to go and spoof blaxploitation, do that.
Right.
Instead, it was just, this guy's kind of funny. Can we just spread his joke?
Well, I mean, one for me that I actually do love, because actually there's only 3 that I thoroughly enjoy and will rewatch a lot. One, like I said, is Blues Brothers, and then like you, Wayne's World. And then the third one is A Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah. And
I actually do enjoy the movie more than the sketches.
Really?
Yeah. Because the sketches were cool, but it's like...
It is a one-note sketch.
It is very one-note. And I do like just how completely oblivious to reality both of those guys are.
Yes.
They play it perfectly.
They do. The movie, it required them to do things. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if that's maybe what put me out of it when I first saw it. Because I've seen it and I don't remember dick. But it was like the sketch, they don't really talk. There's just a lot of, hey, you, me, you. And it's like the Kevin Nealon one. It's funny more based on the physicality, the stupid dance, the repetitive song. And it works as a sketch. As a movie, I was kind of like, how are we doing this now? And I didn't go to the theater for that one. I think I saw that one on HBO, and I couldn't tell you a thing about it. I'd have to rewatch it. If I were to go, I've got 2 more.
Okay.
For an even 5. MacGruber.
Okay.
Have you seen that movie?
I almost died. I have.
Keep dying.
I have.
Or as I should just die already? Is that the game?
It is just die already. I've seen MacGruber.
What'd you think?
I liked it. Mm-hmm. I feel that if it wasn't an R, I would have hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because the funniest jokes are because it's R.
That's why, yeah.
It is such
if that was a PG, that movie would not work.
It would just be the sketch.
Yeah, but it's like, honestly, it's like I've only seen it the one time, and I've never seen it again. I don't even think I own it.
It's so funny. It's just him trying to tell Ryan Felipe to fuck him in the office.
Yeah.
Do you remember that where he's like...
No, because like I said, I remember it. I remember wow, this is pretty edgy.
It is.
And I was like, okay, that's impressive for an SNL movie.
Sure. Especially to reach as far as to let's be as offensive and fucked up as possible.
So I respect that. I'm cool with that. I'm not sensitive. I don't get scared over words and shit, So it's like,
no,
I definitely dig all that. But I think it was just, there was not enough there to make me a fan. Okay. But I respected the humor.
I did. I laughed like hell. There's a huge montage of him gathering up the biggest, baddest, meanest motherfuckers for this mission and then accidentally blowing them all up in a van.
That's pretty funny.
He blew everybody up and was like, oh my God, are you guys okay? And the scene I'm talking about where he's being basically stripped down, of all of his stripes and you're fired, MacGruber. You killed like 8 of our best guys. And he goes, I think he says something like, if I have to do it, I will suck your dick to get this job back. And he's just like, no, not necessary. And he goes, I will fuck you. You can fuck me. You pick something in the room and I'll fuck it. Just what do you want me to do? And then like Ryan Phillippe's just like, shut the fuck up. He's just like, quit. And then like the next shot, like you didn't even see him do it. His pants are down and he goes, there's gotta be something in here like lube. There could be some toner. And he's just like, pull your fucking pants up. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. Point to something and I'll fuck it. But it was like, it's so fucking ridiculous. And he
almost sounded like Bill Cosby there for a second.
There was going to be some pudding. That one I'll load them right up and maybe a pill or two.
Now, Cosby as MacGruber,
Oh boy. Brought to you by Jello.
And pills.
With the pills and the raping and the drinking and the scotching.
I think we found a clip for TikTok.
Sorry. Yeah, that was great. No, I loved Val Kilmer in the movie. There's a scene where he's got, it might be the last movie he really, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's got Kristen Wiig tied up and she goes, MacGruber's going to come here and he's going to stick that missile where the sun doesn't shine. And Val Kilmer gets in her face and goes, and where might that be? And she just, as if knowing that everyone should know this, you just hear her kind of look at him and go, your butthole. And he didn't break. How he didn't, he just nods like, mm-hmm. And I lost my shit over your butt, your butthole.
That's pretty funny.
My final one, and this one's a deep cut. A lot of people don't realize this. Fucking Office Space is an SNL film.
Uh-huh.
Everyone loves Office Space.
Yeah.
You should see the faces on people when I say, that was an SNL sketch, right? And they're like, no, it wasn't.
It was.
It wasn't a common one.
Mm-hmm.
But the animated sketch Milton was Mike Judge doing both voices. And the whole thing was Milton would just be in a room, picking his nose. They moved me to storage room B because, blah, blah, blah. And the boss would come down. Yeah, I'm going to need you to move all your stuff to the basement. And we've got kind of a roach problem. And he would just be like, okay, but I need my stapler back. And that was it. It was just, that was the sketch. And it was animated the same way as like Beavis and Butthead. And it's arguably, in my opinion, probably my funniest SNL movie. Because I think I laugh more at that one than I do any of the others, shy of maybe Wayne's World.
My favorite of all time is Blues Brothers. Mm-hmm. And then a close second is Wayne's World.
Yeah.
But I do love Office Space.
Office Space is hysterical.
Yeah, I do love Office Space.
It's so vicious towards my line of work, my day job. And that I remember appreciating it when I was pushing carts at Sam's Club. That was my first job. I wasn't even in an office, but it was such an anti-authority, I'm not going to die here. I have aspirations.
Yeah.
More so even than Clerks, in my opinion.
Okay. Well.
It's such I hate this fucking job movie.
Yeah.
That I feel like no matter where you work, in a cubicle, in construction, whatever, everyone has that feeling of, I just don't want to fucking be here. Yeah. I just want to do my own thing. Yeah. I hate punching a clock. I hate hitting an alarm. And it was just such a universal stress that it was like, everyone I know likes Office Space. Mm-hmm. Everybody.
Right.
From all walks of life.
Right.
And to me, it's probably one of the smartest and funniest movies to come out of SNL that most people don't even think of. So yeah, that's my capper.
Hell yeah.
The unsung hero of the SNL movies.
And we didn't get to all of them, but it's like we don't have to really. Because it's like we're only doing the ones that we like and the cast that we like. So.
And we brought up several.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but no, some of them were duds. Mm-hmm. And they know what they are.
Exactly.
Nobody's waving the flag too high for those. No, SNL, you're like you said, we have our era. And I watch, usually what I do with SNL now, if it's funny enough, it tends to go viral. And I'll see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
The Beavis and Butthead sketch that's gone everywhere lately with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
And just the fact that Heidi Gardner lost her shit laughing at this. She's one of those unbreakables, you know, and when you see her lose it, you're like, oh my God, you know. And it was just, that one was almost like the Matt Foley one where you saw one domino drop and the rest of them just followed suit. And now nobody can keep a fucking straight face.
Yep.
Same thing with, do you remember Debbie Downer?
Yep.
And her stupid wah, wah. That was another one where nobody can make it through the sketch because everything she said was just so depressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really that's how I stay, I guess you could say, on top of SNL. It's usually when something hits, now it's in my feed somewhere and I'm like, oh, I'll check this out. But otherwise, no, I don't really make a point to stay up anymore.
Yeah, same.
And if I am up, I'm certainly not watching SNL. I'm probably knee deep in a Blu-ray or DVD of some sort and catching up on shit I would rather watch.
Yeah.
But
hell yeah, that was dope.
It wasn't bad, and we didn't really drag SNL out and beat it, I don't think.
No, we didn't. We were honest.
We were, and
you know, there's some we hate, some we love.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the funniest stories I've ever heard behind the scenes of SNL, and there's so many of them, and we go all the way back to like the fighting and all that shit between the first cast.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, with Murray and Chase and all that shit. But in '84, Larry David was a writer on the show.
Oh, okay.
And he couldn't get a sketch on the air, and he was just fucking pissed.
No shit.
And I guess one day in the writer's room, he fucking went ape shit. And was fucking screaming and yelling and fucking acting like a maniac and fuck you and fuck this job, and I fucking quit and left. Then he went home and was just like, I don't have a job.
Just screamed myself out of a job.
So 2 days later, he just shows up for work like it never happened.
And everyone just said, well, hey, Larry.
He's back.
That is super funny.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
Now, what's funny is you mentioned 84. That connection, when he left or when she left, that's him and Julia Dreyfus. Because she was an alum around that time.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, because they were like, and that's the thing too, is that like, they were all friends back then. Michael Richards and David, you know, they were all friends prior. Didn't even if there wasn't an SNL connection, they were just they all came up together.
Okay, because Michael Richards was on something called Fridays, right?
Yes.
Which was another sketch show.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but there's crazy pictures of Larry and Michael from like 70s, 80s. Larry with his big fro and
wow,
you know,
that's pretty wild.
No, I think we did justice by what we loved.
Yeah, and I don't think the intention ever was to drag it behind the barn and shoot it.
No,
you know?
not at all.
But there's a reason why there's a podcast out there called This Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years. And the only reason I found that one was it came up into my feed because Dana DeLorenzo was a guest. And they were talking about sketches that inspired her as a comedian and all this. And I just thought the title was so appropriate. The show hasn't been funny in years. And you're only going to hear it from someone who watched a decade or a cast prior.
Right.
They've been saying it since the 70s. This show hasn't been funny in years.
Yep.
You know, and that's kind of true, but it just depends on when you grew up watching it.
Exactly. All right, man.
Cool.
Well, I guess party on, Jace.
Party on, Brad.
Until next time.
See you guys.